On to the top focus story. According to local Israeli media, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu joined US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace despite reservations about the Gaza Executive Board's composition. Israel generally supports the initiative seen as a rival to the UN, but objects to the inclusion of senior officials from Turkey and Qatar who will oversee post-war Gaza. Netanyahu's close relationship with Trump, including multiple one-on-one meetings, limited Israel's ability to push back. The reports also suggest that the US-backed Gaza ceasefire and Board of Peace oversight have created tension between demonstrating Israeli sovereignty and maintaining strong ties with Washington. Decisions such as reopening the Rafah border crossing are now largely guided by the Board of Peace, despite Jerusalem's insistence on conditions related to hostages and Hamas disarmament. Joining me now in this discussion is Peter Baum, who's editor of the Weekly Blitz, and he joins us from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Baum, for joining us here at NewsX World. Firstly, how do you view the fact that Netanyahu will have to settle in for something that he was not in full acceptance of?
Yeah, this was always going to be a difficult decision for the Israeli Prime Minister and his cabinet. Clearly, he would have preferred the exclusion of countries such as Qatar and Turkey, and he made that known to Trump from the very beginning when the initiative was first proposed. However, he's had to compromise, and I think it's right that he has compromised. He had no option, actually, but he should be heartened by the fact that the biggest Islamic nation in the world, Indonesia, has joined, and I think to date some 35 other nations have also joined, with more to follow. But the big story here is not the compromise that Netanyahu had to make. The real big story here is how this organisation, this new initiative by Donald Trump, will be seen to be the first challenge to the United Nations as a body which has control over world affairs.
Right.
Trump has said that the Board of Peace will work with the United Nations, but frankly, he's ignoring the organisation and, more importantly, the NGOs that have been working within the Palestinian territories since the early 1950s. They have been completely excluded and discounted. Netanyahu recognises that too, and I think he's weak opposition is a sign that on the whole this is going to be a great benefit to the area, to Israel, and hopefully to the Palestinian people. So the story here is the way that the United Nations as a body have been excluded for the first time from world affairs, and certainly from the Middle East, and the Board of Peace will take control. Bear in mind one other thing. There are a number of countries that could not possibly join the Board of Peace. We're talking about the very poor countries in Northern Africa, Mali, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, Somalia, etc. Simply because they don't have the competencies, nor the funds, nor the need really to join the Board of Peace. But make no mistake, this new initiative is the first challenge to the United Nations. The world order is changing.
Mr. Baum, but would you say that the Board of Peace, with only 35 committed members as of now, can really rival the United Nations, when at least most of the permanent 5 members of the United Nations, with the exclusion of the US, of course, are not on this Board of Peace?
To rival the United Nations, perhaps not, but to challenge and to be seen as a new body that will have some impact and effect in a relatively short space of time, which the United Nations hasn't been able to achieve for 75 years in the area. I think that's how it should be seen. Not to perhaps take over the full role of the United Nations, perhaps not to be a full rival, but in certain areas of the world where there is conflict, a similar initiative, let's call it Board of Peace Mark II in Ukraine, for example, if that ever happens. But make no mistake, the United Nations power will be severely diluted by this new initiative, and for many nations around the world that would be seen as a good thing. Certainly from Israel's point of view, it's a big win.
All right, sure. Requested to stay on with us, Mr. Baum, as we proceed. Viewers, let's also now tell you that Donald Trump has announced that the US would